Chapter 2, The Mysterious Past. You made a new card? Kiro leaped up. Yes, there's a new source of power. I'm so stupid. Kiroberos, didn't notice the powers before you and the Lee kid. You say he's back again? Mm-hmm. Sakura flopped on her bed. What a tiring day it had been. She shook her head in disbelief as she thought about the fast-paced action that had happened in the last few hours. She fingered the bandage on her hand. Best of all, he was back. What happened to your hand? Oh, the spirit thing hurt it. Where is the card? The knife? Syaoran has it. He pinned it down. You let the kid have it? He saved my life. Besides, he offered it to me and I refused it. That was stupid. I could have observed it. And you made a new spell? Yep. Kiro-chan folded his arms in thinking position and said, I must find more information about this. Sakura soon fell asleep, dreaming of fighting Ghost in the Rain with Syaoran, and someone with long black pigtails, Meilin. Tomeo was videotaping them. Sakura jumped around with her outfit with laces and bows, and suddenly a smooth, menacing voice whispered in her ear, You are mine, Cherry Blossom. Syaoran frowned as he looked through the few magic books that he had brought from Hong Kong. No information whatsoever, leading to any clue about the attack last night. You'll have to look through Father's books when Wei brings them. Maybe I should just sleep. After all, I need to wake up early tomorrow if I want to go to school. School. He had made some friends before leaving. Will there be many changes? Sakura hummed as she brushed her hair that morning. Kiro-chan sat on her bed. Why are you in such a good mood today? I don't know. Sakura smiled her usual smile. Kiro sighed as he hovered over Sakura's head. Still, this was the normal Sakura that he had known before. She was wearing her green ribbon, which set off her sparkling emerald eyes. Continuing to smile, she stomped downstairs. Good morning, Oni-chan. Morning, Kaiju. Toya slightly chuckled. That was the little monster he knew. I'm not a monster. Rika came rushing in. Hey, you guys! Did you hear that Lee-kun returned? All the people who had known him gathered around her. Really? Did you see him? Rika gasped. I only saw his back. His color hair seemed the same. They all sighed in exasperation. Of course his hair color was the same unless he dyed it a funky color. Hey, Sakura, Tomeo, you too don't seem that surprised. Really? Eran grimaced. Who were they talking about? Just then the teacher came in. Quickly, the students hurried to their seats. Students, we have yet another new student in our 7th grade class today. Some of you may remember him from Tomeda Elementary. Lee Syaoran has come back to Japan from after a year in Hong Kong. Syaoran slightly bowed to the class. He gazed around the class with level eyes. Sakura and Tomeo were sitting side by side. Takashi Yamazaki was sitting next to Chiharu and Rika. Suddenly, he saw a pair of golden eyes staring at him. A boy with dark purple hair stared at him with an amused smile. Syaoran glanced next to him and could see the same golden eyes staring out of a girl with a lighter color hair than her brother. It waved prettily onto her shoulders. Why do they stand out so much? For some strange reason, he felt like shuddering. He tugged at the tie of his school uniform in discomfort. At least the pants were long now that they were older. Syaoran, you may sit in the empty seat behind Sakura Kinomoto. Syaoran steadily walked to the seat with eyes still on the gold-eyed people. Sakura saw the direction of Syaoran's gaze and felt annoyed. That vixen Arika had already captivated him. Well, it wasn't what she was thinking. Arika continuously stared at the new boy. It did help that the little wolf was so good-looking. She saw the fire in the amber eyes which gazed at her under fierce eyebrows. His dark brown hair seemed so luxurious and glossy. It'll be fun to make him mine. Plus, he looks stubborn. More the better. I like strong guys. The cherry blossom also seems interested in him. How fun it will be to make her hurt. No one can resist me. Not even him. Sakura felt a little hurt. Syaoran was doing his best to ignore her. At least he was not glaring at her like he did the first time he came. He had been sitting directly behind her at that time also. Still, he treated her as if she didn't exist. I'll have to get to know him all over again. I thought he considered me a friend. Plus, it seemed that he was interested in Erika. After all, she was beautiful. Unlike me. Syaoran mused as he sat at his desk. He had finished the math problems quickly, and now he was thinking. As he pondered, he found that he was staring at Sakura's head again. How is it that I always manage to sit behind her? He had memorized the back of her head previously. Well, her hairstyle changed, so he could memorize it again. The green ribbon looked so good against the glossy tresses. It matched with her eyes. Wait, what am I thinking? Suddenly he narrowed his eyes and glanced sideways. The boy, who he learned was called Syaoran Chain, needed some watching. He was gazing intently at Sakura. I need to keep an eye on him and his vixen twin Erika. Syaoran had been in school for about a week. During PE class, he excused himself for a drink of water. Having a cold drink of water, he flinched. Swerving around, he braced himself. Why, Syaoran-kun, it's only me, Erika purred, tossing her wavy hair. He wiped his sweaty hands on his PE uniform and walked off. Erika pouted, looking not so pretty. Why doesn't he fall under my charm? What is wrong with him? Well, I guess it's better than a boy who comes easily. The boys and girls mixed to play soccer. There were an uneven number of players, so Syaoran asked to sit out. He was sick and tired of the game. Soon, Syaoran was leading the game. He was swift and quick, and his kicks were unstoppable. Syaoran's eyebrows knit together. Syaoran had no sense of teamwork. Even he, Syaoran, knew that soccer was a game with participation of all members. Still, girls watched him and oohed and ahed over Syaoran's splendid skills and shapely body. Syaoran was unbeatable. Syaoran turned his head in disgust. Syaoran needed to be taken down a peg or two. Sakura watched Syaoran sitting offside and keeping an eye on Syaoran. She wondered why he didn't play. He was very good, probably better than Syaoran, who was marvelous as well. She had known that at the time, when the time card repeated several days. When the ball flew out of the field, Syaoran kicked the ball straight into the net from the stairs. Watch out! Sakura turned just in time to miss being hit by 2 soccer balls. Out of nowhere, dozens of soccer balls appeared, all slamming down like a missile with her as the target. Syaoran sprang up, another force. All the other students knocked out. He was too preoccupied to notice that Syaoran and Erika were not there. Sakura quickly pulled out her key. Key that hides the force of the stars, show your true shape to me. I, Sakura, command you under contract. Release! She thought out of a card and struck it with her staff. Shield! This won't hold. I must change my tactics. Just then the shield wavered and broke out, and the balls resumed their attack. Quickly, Syaoran thought out a card and called out, Time! The soccer balls momentarily stopped midair, and Sakura used her brains quickly. Windy! The balls flew away, and then she concentrated for the center of the power. Spirit of dark forces, I, Sakura, command you. Return to the new shape of contract. Sakura, card! A card formed and landed on her hand. She read it. The ball. Sakura started to giggle. It was such a stupid card to have. Utterly useless. Syaoran walked over to her to have a look at it. I wonder what I would ever do with this card. Lee-kun, so far the enemies have used objects. Syaoran shrugged. I hate to say this, but it's too early to tell what the enemy would do or what they can unveil. We are not sure of anything yet. There's so much more that we have to find out. The students who were knocked out started to rise up. I'll finish talking to you later. Sakura stared at the new Sakura card. She knew the problem was serious, yet she broke out laughing again at the card. The picture was so ridiculous. It had a ball with arms and legs sticking out of it. Erika whined. Can you at least warn me before we're sending out a power? And why did you send out such a weak one like the ball? Why don't we send out the stronger ones? I apologize for not giving a warning first. However, I find it necessary to send out the weak servants out first. You want them to have a good fight with the more fearful ones, don't you? Later, they'll have to face themes 10 times more powerful than objects. Will they be able to overcome misery, heartbreak, pain, anger, and hate? I'm still testing their powers. I don't know the wolf and the cloud cards as well. Those two definitely know their game. They are experienced, and they, like us, have only shown a portion of their powers. Well, you know best. Come on, people are starting to wake up. Tomeo asked in surprise, "Wow, you made another card? Oh, gosh, too bad I couldn't videotape it." It was really not worth recording. The new card is so stupid. Really? Hey, Lee-kun's coming over here. Syaoran walked up to Sakura, and as he went past, he whispered, "Meet me at the roof in 5 minutes." Tomeo asked, "Can I come too?" "If you want to. You're in the plot anyway." Sakura and Tomeo walked up to the roof. They saw that Syaoran was already there, staring out of the fence, down to the town. He spun around to Sakura. "Do you feel what I feel?" Sakura turned next to him on the fence and focused her mind, while widening her inner view to all around the town. Chaos of power was screaming everywhere, yet they were not completely free yet. Wild magic was brimming, but not ready to attack. When it did, anything would be liable to happen. She gasped and nodded at Syaoran. "What is it?" "I don't know. Our enemy must be the cause of it. They caused all the disruption of powers when they arrived. We have to find out some things before it's too late." Syaoran plopped down on the floor. He hated it when he didn't know what to do or know what was happening. "We have deeper origins than you understand too, smart one." Did it mean as deep as his former generation, or as deep as Cloud Reed, or even before? Thinking aloud, he said, "Wait, Wei's arriving tomorrow. He will bring more of Father's books. Maybe I'll be able to find some more information in them." "Your father's books?" "Yes. He worked on some sort of magic too. I only have dim memories of him since he died when I was young, but I remember how intelligent and talented he was. My mom saved most of his things to pass on to his son, me." Sakura noticed the slightly sad, wistful pain in his voice. She understood it. "It's like that for me. I can't remember my mother that well. She was supposed to be beautiful and kind. Oni-chan remembers her. Oh, I wish I knew her." Syaoran raised an eyebrow to observe Sakura. "She's different, but maybe not so different after all. Do you want to come over to my apartment tomorrow to look over the books Wei will bring?" "Me?" Sakura squealed. "Yes, you. Who else? I have no intention of going over the whole stack of books any time under a month, and we do need to find out the information. 2 heads are better than 1, I guess." Then he thought over, picturing Sakura trying to research in Chinese, and added, "Well, maybe a little better." Sakura crossed her arms. Was he teasing her? "Wait, I have cheerleading practice after school tomorrow." Shrugging, he replied, "It doesn't matter. I was planning to go to soccer tryouts." "You and the soccer team? Why? Is there anything wrong with that?" "No. Can Kiro-chan come? He wanted to find out more information." Syaoran coughed. "Who? You mean the stuffed doll?" "You know he has the power to change into Kiroberos." "Not under my roof." "Fine, he can come. What do I care?" Then he eyed Tomeo, who was eagerly beckoning on him. "No, this is not a party. We are researching for valuable information, not videotaping." Tomeo sighed in disappointment. Well, maybe it'll be better to get Sakura and Syaoran, the skilled magicians, to do the hard working. She could handle things when the action came. During math class the next day, the teacher barked at Sakura. "What do you mean you didn't finish the problems?" A bead of sweat trickled down the side of her head as the teacher towered over her. Last night she couldn't concentrate. She was so busy talking with Kiro and thinking about the enemy. There was no time for math problems. I'm sorry. I had a headache and I couldn't think last night. Please give me another chance. I'll finish it by tomorrow." "One more chance then, and you'll need to finish today's as well." Sakura sighed in relief. Her teacher's punishments were unbearable, and worse, depending on his mood. Tomeo gave a look of sympathy. Her eyes crossed Erika's, which was one of triumph and pleasure. However, Eron's golden eyes, "No, it's Hazel." It's only very bright hazel eyes, was one of understanding. After school, Sakura went to the cheerleading practices. They could watch the soccer field from there. Most of the guys were trying out for soccer, and many girls were watching. Some looked expectantly at Syaoran, who was getting framed as the best soccer player. A murmur of admiration reigned as he deftly caught a ball and shot in a goal. The coach then paired the boys up to play one-on-one. Lee and Chain. Syaoran shot a look at the self-confident smirk on Syaoran's face. No way. I'm letting that conceited pig get the best out of me. Syaoran smiled sideways at Sakura, who was watching from a distance, and winked. Sakura's mouth opened in surprise. Syaoran fumed inside. The coach blew the whistle and their match began. Syaoran started off with the ball, dribbling in super speed. Syaoran shot off and watched sharply for an opening. Man, this is harder than I thought. He took the opportunity when it came, and the boys tackled each other over the ball. Syaoran is good, but I'm better. It's all strategy and energy and consistence. Grimly smiling, Syaoran forced the ball away with a quick, clever movement of his feet, snatching the ball away like lightning. The viewers gasped and awed. Swiftly, Syaoran dribbled across the field, expertly dodging Syaoran's sly movements. Then he kicked forcefully, and despite Syaoran's efforts to block it, it swirled to the topmost corner of the goal and hissed and dropped with a thud onto the floor. There was a second of silence, and then everybody cheered for him. Some people whistled. Syaoran gave a half smile to the crowd as he wiped his wet forehead with the sleeve of his t-shirt. Sakura watched in amazement. Wow, Syaoran was the best. Erika also watched from a corner bemused. My Syaoran, so strong and skillful, better than darling Syaoran. Syaoran shot a poisonous glare at his rival. He never lost. Never. Syaoran caught the glare. He briefly said, Syaoran, you were one of the best at soccer. However, I beat you because I enjoy the movement and the spirit. You enjoy the admiration of others and the feeling of having to win. Tossing his chestnut locks, Syaoran walked away with a bag slung over his shoulders, looking tough and cool without realizing it. The girls drooled as they saw the calm, supple figure walk past them. Syaoran raged as he replayed the happenings on the field. Why did he win? I'm better. I must be. I always win. The words Syaoran had echoed in his ears. His face contorted, looking not so handsome anymore, and cursed. Still fretting over losing? My, how shocked you must be. Well, I admit he's good. His movements are lithe and strong. It must be from the Chinese martial arts training. Or maybe he's just natural talents. Big help you are, sister. I have displayed all my skills yet. That one should beware. I'll make him suffer. Syaoran grimaced as he watched Sakura run up to Syaoran, smiling sweetly. Wow, Lee-kun, you were great. In surprise, he asked, You saw me? Yep. I never knew you were that good. Syaoran shuffled his foot. Too many compliments made him embarrassed. They walked out of the school gates in silence. Why did I ever invite Sakura to my house? Lee-kun? Huh? He jumped. Nothing. Yes, it's fine. We are partners against an evil foe, and we must work together. I don't regret inviting you over. I need all the help to go through and find the information. How'd you know what I was trying to ask? It was what you were going to ask, though, wasn't it? Hoi! Sakura then sent the mirror to her house so that her family wouldn't suspect. Well, Oni-chan already knew that the mirror was not her. However, they got along fine. Syaoran opened the door, and gingerly Sakura stepped in. It looked exactly like the last time she saw it. Pretty cozy. Way, I'm back from school. You're back, Syaoran. Well, I was busy tidying up the house. I didn't know how time flew. Only your room was neat. The rest of the house was a mess. Syaoran hung his head bashfully. He said to Sakura, Wei came early this morning. I guess I didn't bother with anywhere else except my room. That's where I sleep and study, anyway. He led her to his room. It was spotless, as usual, but by the corner there were 2 large boxes overflowing with ancient books. Sakura gasped. Syaoran muttered, Now you know why I invited you over. Sakura shook her head and replied, Wait, let me call Kiro-chan over. Taking out her handphone, she called Kiro and told him to come to Syaoran's apartment. Soon Kiro knocked on the window and Sakura let him in. Briefly, Syaoran and Kiro-chan had a glaring contest. Then silently, Syaoran spilled out the contents of the box on the floor. Then they all seated themselves on the floor. Wait, how am I supposed to read Chinese? Sakura asked. Well, there are some books written in Japanese. Evidently, my father had some connection with Japan. With a toss of his head, he added, also, I did not spin the lanier in waste. With his hands, he made a gesture in front of Sakura's face and shouted out a word of command in Chinese. Then he handed her a Chinese book and said, try reading it now. Sakura groaned, Lee-kun. Yet, as she flipped through the pages of Chinese, she found she could understand it. She blinked. Wow! Where did you learn that? I can actually read Chinese. It's a spell handed down from my father. He often had to translate foreign documents, and it was pretty useful. Now, research. He handed her a pile of dusty volumes. Glaring at Kiro, he added, you too, you should do something useful while you're here. Kiro was about to argue back when Sakura said, you two, stop it, or else I'm going to use the change card to switch your bodies again. Syaoran and Kiro shuddered with a final glare and shut their mouths. Soon they fell into their books. Sakura sighed and she read the rows of tiny texts, pages after pages, book after book, finding information not there. I wonder which is better, getting kicked out by Mei Lin, like the first time I came here, or swimming hopelessly through the impossible. Yet, this is vital. I must not slack off. Hong Kong. Li Mei Lin fingered her jet black pigtails as she stood in front of Syaoran's painting, exhibited in the hallway of the school. From the last time she had visited Japan, she had realized that Syaoran was not entirely hers anymore. She had noticed a difference, a change in Syaoran. Still, she liked him, though her feelings were very confused. Why, out of all colors, does this girl in the painting have green eyes? Stupid, it's his favorite color. But Sakura had green eyes. The girl in the painting was Sakura. Mei Lin felt like shrieking, but she couldn't. Still, I do sincerely like Sakura and Tomeo, and I do like life in Japan, but Syaoran has gone back to her. He should like me better. I'm a relative and suitable for him. We've known each other longer, yet he still prefers her. She isn't any prettier or smarter. The only thing that Sakura was better at was she had magic skills. Still, there was something about that tilt of her head and the brightness of her eyes and the sweetness of her smile, which all added up to something which darling Syaoran did so well to capture in his painting. Mei Lin glared at the beautiful painting, which had won many school awards and compliments. She did like Japan, too. There was no reason why she shouldn't go back. I miss Syaoran and everyone else. Maybe I can win Syaoran back. Yet, do I really want to? In any instance, I can't do much staying here anyway. Life in Japan sure was interesting, though she did love Hong Kong. Mei Lin stomped down the hall and students stared at her in surprise. Forget it. This is impossible, Kiro said, slamming closed another book. Syaoran shook his head. So far, they had not been successful in finding any lead toward their enemy. He sighed. We mustn't give up, even for one line. Sakura's stomach rumbled. As if on cue, Wei knocked on the door. Dinner's ready. It's getting cold if you two don't come quick. Eagerly, the two tired ones got up to the dining room. Sakura breathed in the delicious smell of smoking hot food. She had to save some for Kiro-chan. This is delicious, Wei, Sakura exclaimed. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. You must be tired after spending hours over those dusty books. Syaoran-sama should not make a guest work so hard. Soon, Sakura, Syaoran, and Kiro bent over their books again. Yo, Lee Kid, don't you have any video games? We are not here to relax. We have an important task to do. Even saying this, Syaoran stretched. Lee-kun, was this dent on the floor? Sakura asked curiously. Syaoran shuffled bashfully. I was mad, so I slammed my sword into the floor. Wow, you must have been really mad. What made you so mad? Let's get back on track and work. Way past midnight, they searched. Sakura yawned and stretched out her arms, and Syaoran followed by yawning widely also. Kiro started to doze off. "Oh, this is hopeless," Syaoran muttered. Then he fingered a half-burnt book. He gasped. Kiro bolted up from dozing. "What is it?" "What is it, Lee-kun?" Sakura asked. With trembling hands, he turned the cracking pages. Covered with soot, he read aloud. "Their golden eyes mock me. I am a fool. I have failed in my mission in Japan. Who knew that they would come back? Their legend still remains, and they come back to curse me, curse us, even before Cloudreed. How did they come back? There's so much that I don't know. There's so much that I do know. They use Western magic, so powerful, more powerful than mine, maybe more powerful than Cloudreed's Eastern and Western combined. They are clever. They have survived through new generations, possessing each mind. Till now, they have built up their power. Now they are ready to strike, yet their past is unclear. What do they hold in a grudge? Something terrible, a tragic and fatal occurrence so long forgotten by everyone, except for them. God, this is my father's diary." "Your father? He had to deal with enemies also? Oy, this is so confusing." I can't believe it. My father wrote this. I wish I knew him better. Everything is so vague. The next 2 pages are burnt so badly that it's all blurred and impossible to read." Kiro's eyebrows twitched together. "This is getting more serious than I thought. These new enemies, they are deadly. I think I heard Cloudreed mention something about 2 people, 1 man and 1 woman. I forget their names." Flipping to readable pages, Syaoran continued. "Each trial gets more difficult. They started out with attacking with simple objects, but now I feel my soul being ripped apart. We must survive together, Nadeshiko and I. We have come this far, and overthrowing their hardships won upon us." Sakura exclaimed. "Nadeshiko? That's my mother." "Your mother knew my father?" Syaoran said in amazement. "Continue," Kiro said. "Nadeshiko is suffering as much as I am. We must stop them from causing destruction. With our powers combined, we can face them. Yet, I can't bear Nadeshiko being hurt and tormented like I am. I must protect her from the unseen forces. Yes, we have not estimated their full strength when we first met them. At first they started with weak, manageable forces. Now, we don't know what to expect, how they will break down upon us. I must continue on for Nadeshiko. Damn it, the rust is burnt. We finally hit upon something, and it's so vague, all burnt. I can't hardly read it. I can't believe it. My mother had powers, like me. Maybe different. No wonder Toya had some sort of second sight. Oh yes, did you know? His powers came back after Yume permanently turned back into Yukito-san. My father and your mother, what was their relationship? How do they know each other? Why is it turning out so complicated? Kiro interrupted. Continue reading, boy. Syaoran flipped through the charred pages. All of them were burnt beyond recognition. Finally, he came upon a sooty, barely readable page near the end. He bent close to decipher the fragile page. Nadeshiko and I have barely managed to bind down the forces with the help of Cloudreed's spirit, yet we have only bound them down. By gaining their powers again, they will be able to take new forms and break free from the bond. They will strike down upon the next generation, more powerful and fearful than ever. God save our next generation. Will they be able to prevent destruction? Sakura's heart beat faster. So the enemies did come back, more powerful than ever, to her generation, and Syaoran's. Syaoran trembled while skimming through to see if there were any more words he could decipher. Their powers left one last force. They, cruel and heartless, Nadeshiko and I, will never speak to each other any longer. Because of them, their evil plots, we are not fated to be. I abruptly left Japan, returned to Hong Kong. I never told her, not in all the time spent together, never told her. Had a beautiful smile. The way she gazed at me, her voice, never took the chance. I am a fool. Never told her. I loved her. Syaoran stopped for a breath. It was hard to read the sprawly handwriting half burnt. He loved Nadesico. My father loved Sakura's mother once. Something happened. I wonder what. This is so hard to figure out and understand. Sakura said in a strained voice. Are there any other entries? Wait. Syaoran thumbed through the last few pages, peering at it. I didn't forgive her. Didn't forgive me. I wish I can take back time. What I wouldn't do. Hold no grudge anymore. I love my wife dearly. Gave her my adult love. My first childhood life lost in Nadesico and gone. She loves her husband and children, living happily. I'm glad for her. Yet I want to end our days in friendship, not being enemies. It is too late to tell her that I loved her. I still do, but in a forgotten way. We both won't live long, as it is our destiny. Still, I have one last hope. Sakura's eyes were glassy. It was such a sad story, even though it has something to do with Syaoran and my parents and our enemy. It was so confusing, but apparently there was an enemy, and her mother and Syaoran's father fought against. Finally, they bound it down with much hardships and consequences. Their love ended in heartache because of them, the golden-eyed devils. Syaoran refused to think of all the jumbled thoughts that ran through his mind. There's the last page. I think I can manage to read it. Here I lie on my deathbed. I can hardly manage to hold a pen. Though I die early, satisfied, Nadesico and I can sleep eternally in once more mended friendship. We both have children. Our youngest would be more powerful than we ever were. If they find the true key, someday they'll be the ones to face the golden-eyed enemies. One last time I went to Japan with my youngest son. Vowed I'd never return, but I didn't want to miss my last chance to erase that awful memory. Met Nadesico, as beautiful as ever, has a strong son and a beautiful young daughter. Already friendly with my son. We can die in peace now. We have our children to carry on. Syaoran's forced voice broke off. That's all I can read. Sakura dabbed the corner of her eyes with the sleeve of her school uniform. That's so sad. There's so many things I don't know about my mother. I wonder if Father Oni-chan knew. Do you see? They have all their hopes upon us, their children. We have to overcome the enemy, or enemies, which cost it for them. Syaoran stared at the last page, trembling inside. He was so like his father, though he would not admit it. Now he was more scared. There was more information, but now he was more confused than ever. His father never told Nadesico that he loved her. Their enemy dropped in poison in the relationship. His father left Japan. At least he came back and mended their friendship. I'm so glad, but still it was too late to tell her. I do wish so much of that diary isn't burned. Then we won't have the scraps and pieces of information. Bemused, Syaoran said, Do you realize that we met before that day in 4th grade? What? I met you when my father brought me to Japan to meet your mother, and you, when we were barely 3. I'm so glad that they died in friendship, despite the fact that something happened. I think I remember you, though I'm not sure. Really? Sakura strained her mind and closed her eyes. When she was little, she remembered a friend. It was a quiet little boy with large amber eyes. Little Sakura smiled and asked, What's your name? My father says I'm Little Wolf. Really? I like you. Please be my friend. Okay. Just then, little Sakura fell down on her rollerblades. The little wolf clumsily tried to catch her, and Sakura fell on top of him. Thank you, little wolf. It's okay. My dad says that true friends are supposed to help each other. Your daddy seems like a nice person. Is he friends with my mommy? Of course. That's why he's here from Hong Kong. They're old friends. I came too. Now we can be friends. Sakura smiled wistfully. Did the little wolf remember their first indication of friendship? Kiro butted in. Wait, We have hit on valuable information, though, glaring at Syaoran, there are only bits and pieces of it. Hey, it's not my fault that it was burnt. However, this is not enough. Before a discussion, continue finding more information. There might be more still. While you do that, I'll think. Sakura and Syaoran both sighed in unison. Drearily. Their minds were filled with dozens of questions, but they picked up another book. It was very late in the night, and all was silent. Forget it. I'm not going to think about what happened long ago. Nothing makes sense. So tired, so sleepy. I mustn't sleep. There might be more information. Soon, Sakura was fast asleep, sitting on the floor and leaning back against the bed. Syaoran looked up from another unsuccessful book, hearing her breathe softly in sleep. Poor Sakura. She isn't used to staying up all night like I am. She'll get a neck ache when she wakes up. She must be shocked by the new information. I am. I already knew that father had some sort of strange past. She must be astonished to know that new things about her mother. Syaoran's softer surface came up as he gazed upon the innocent sleeping figure. Gently, he lifted her up and placed her on his bed, then tucked her in underneath soft blankets. The night air was getting colder these days. She'll catch a cold sleeping on the floor. Kiro, who was in deep thought, raised one non-existent eyebrow as he watched Syaoran acting so nice and gentle toward Sakura. He was about to comment, but decided against it, as he saw the careful way he handled her. Sometimes you really don't know what goes on inside that kid, Kiro broke out grinning, despite the serious matters that lay before him. Syaoran stood up and stretched, yawning. Forget researching. Gazing upon the angelic figure sleeping on his bed, he smiled. Her hair lay spread out around her, and for some strange reason, he had a sudden desire to stroke her satin-soft cheeks. Her ribbon had become untied. Without knowing why, he took the green ribbon and slipped it into his pocket. He then remembered something. Sheesh. He took out the homework and math problems and began solving them, quickly. He could do it without hardly thinking. When he finished, he took out Sakura's and finished the day's problems as well as the ones from before, doing his best to write in her handwriting. It wouldn't do to have her get in trouble. Why didn't I think of finishing the homework earlier? Yawning, he struggled to keep awake, and finishing the last problem, he gradually fell into a deep slumber. The next morning, Sakura stretched and sat upon a soft bed. For a moment she sat up, staring around the strange surroundings. Where am I? Then she saw Syaoran bent over his desk and sleeping. She realized that she was in Syaoran's room. How did I end up on the bed? Then glancing at the time, she shrieked. Syaoran and Kiro bolted up. Hey, we're going to be late for school! Syaoran sprang up. Quickly he grabbed the homework and stashed it into his bag. Sakura stood up, trying to smooth out her wrinkled uniform. She felt her head and couldn't find her ribbon. Her hair was all tangled up. Do you have a brush? Syaoran tossed her a brush. Sakura started brushing her tangled hair in super speed. Too bad she had nothing to tie it with. She didn't think that Syaoran would have any spare hair ties lying around. Syaoran took something out of his closet and said to her, Here, wear this. It's raining outside. Sakura gratefully took the thick V-neck dark green sweater and pulled it over her head. It settled over her school uniform, and she immediately felt warm. Syaoran grabbed another sweater out of his closet and wore it. Laughing, Sakura said, Don't you have any other colored sweaters? They're all green. I guess I like green. And I do have other colors, too. Hurry, we're going to be late. Grabbing an umbrella, they ran outside. They had to share the green umbrella because Syaoran only had one at his house. Quickly, they started to run to school. It started pelting down the rain, harder than ever, and they could hardly see in front of them. Sakura almost stumbled into a large puddle, but Syaoran grabbed her in time. The wind began howling as a bolt of thunder crashed down. Sakura thankfully snuggled inside the fuzzy sweater and drew nearer to Syaoran. They had to slow down their pace to see where they were going. Despite the umbrella, raindrops splattered on them. Lee-kun, this doesn't seem right. I don't think this rain, it doesn't feel normal. I know. We'll have to examine it later. We better get to school and be under shelter before we're completely soaked. Sakura nodded, and Syaoran speeded up the pace. Brr, what a miserable day to come to Japan. Mei-lin stared out the school window. Outside it was pelting with rain. Perfect weather for ghosts to hunt. She had chosen to come to school first and sent all her luggage to home. Well, Syaoran's home. Why isn't Syaoran coming? Maybe she should have gone back home first. She wanted to surprise him at school. Tomeo came to her. I wonder where Sakura-chan is. She usually isn't so late. Mei-lin, you must be waiting for Lee-kun. He's never been so late. Mei-lin nodded. Suddenly she narrowed her eyes. 2 figures ran through the school gate under a green umbrella. Just as the first bell rang, Syaoran and Sakura ran into the school. Sakura shook her wet hair. In the locker room, Syaoran put his bag and umbrella away. He handed her a towel. Wei said that I might need this. Here, use it. Thank you. Sakura took the soft towel and wiped her face and hair. They ran to the classroom. Mei-lin frowned as she saw that Syaoran and Sakura entered together. Suddenly, Syaoran stepped back mid-track. Mei-lin! Ni hao, Syaoran! Mei-lin greeted and ran up to Syaoran, squeezing him tightly. What are you doing here? I told Mother not to let you come. It's dangerous. It's okay. Syaoran didn't say any more and slumped down his desk. Ugh, he was fond of his cousin Mei-lin, but... The sensei then announced, We have yet another new transfer student, Lee Mei-lin, come to the front. She has been here for a few months in Tomeda Elementary and came from Hong Kong. Mei-lin is Lee Syaoran's cousin. Be friendly to her. During break, Sakura exclaimed, Hoi! I forgot to do my math homework yesterday. Tomeo said, the sensei would be so mad. Why didn't you do it? He already gave you another chance. I was so busy finding information. Sakura momentarily froze. Suddenly, she remembered the secrets uncovered, which she had briefly forgotten in the hassle of the morning. From behind, Syaoran came up and said, Here, take this. I did it for you. Hoi? Sakura took the papers. She then realized that it was her math homework. Squealing in relief, she said, Thank you, Lee-kun. You are a real nice person. You saved my life. I don't know how to thank you. It's okay. Then he walked off. Tomeo then asked privately, Did you find some information? Can you believe it? My mother knew his father. Really? Did you spend the whole night there? Mm-hmm. We stayed up till so late, but then I fell asleep. Which reminds me, I left Kiro-chan at his house. Kiro-chan would be fine. Wow, you spent the whole night there. Oh, how romantic. Tomeo-chan, we were researching. You two are no fun. Just then from behind, Mei-lin shouted, I knew it. What is it, Mei-lin? Tomeo asked. Sakura, whose sweater is that? Hoi? This sweater is Lee-kun's. He lent it to me because it was raining outside. And why would he lend you his sweater? Don't you have your own? Sakura stammered. Syaoran came and said, She was over at my house. We were looking through my father's old books. It was raining in the morning. You mean she spent the night there? Mei-lin exclaimed. She narrowed her eyes at the red Sakura and overly calm Syaoran. Syaoran steadily said, Yes, and please lower your voice, please. Other people might hear. We know that this is strictly family and cloud card related business. Syaoran, you know whatever it is, I'll help you. You can ask me to look through the books. You can always depend on me, okay? Sakura said, Mei-lin's the same as ever. Tomeo replied, Not exactly. In math class, the sensei said, Kinomoto Sakura, great job. I must take another look at you. These math problems are all right. Wow, this is incredible, beautiful, marvelous. A bead of sweat ran down Sakura's head. Luckily, the teacher did not suspect that Syaoran solved the problems. Anyway, she felt so grateful. She shot an appreciative smile at Syaoran, who looked away. Mei-lin glanced between them suspiciously. Aaron, who's that new girl? She's a Lee also, Rika asked, looking skeptically at the jumpy girl with swishing pigtails. She has 0 magic powers. Still, we should look out for her. The thunder boomed in the storm